Yeah.
Like, don't give these people the World Cup. Like,
It's insane. It's funny. I'm doing a little tour later in the year of the Middle East, and I'm doing. So far, I'm doing Turkey and Lebanon, and then we don't know what else. We're offered something in Iraq, and it's all these kind of places.
you're playing Iraq.
I don't know, probably not. That's unlikely to happen. But Beirut is going to happen. But there's nothing happening in Beirut at the moment. Yeah. Stuff happens all the time in the Lebanon, and in Beirut it just doesn't make the news, doesn't get reported because it's not a big enough deal. But basically, it kicks off a couple of times a year. But yeah, and I've been offered stuff in Israel before.
Yeah, I remember there was about 2 or 3 years ago. There was that gig you were offered there, and you turned that down for.
Yeah, I quietly turned it down. I wouldn't say I turned it down for political reasons. I turned it down because there's an unofficial boycott. I did a couple of gigs just done on the tour that I just did, and my agent gave me this support that he's really trying to. He really likes her, and she was really good. Called Mira Awad, and she's Israeli Arab, and so I talked to her a little bit about it. But I was conscious of the fact that she probably has to talk about it all the time. But then she was saying, you know, she's had death threats and stuff from both sides. She was Israel's representative in the Eurovision Song Contest one year, and really, it's funny Eurovision, 'cause you get like the odd country where they actually do it really well, and it's actually this is good, you know.
Yeah.
This is really good. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, she was good anyway, and yeah. I told her that I'd kind of just decided I was just going to toe the line with the boycott. I hadn't really made a decision to do that based on what the boycott was about. I just didn't. It's like if I went and did the gig, I would have to just be able to explain it, and I couldn't do that.
Do you feel people should be playing Israel or shouldn't be playing Israel? Or,
well, you know what the music industry is like. It's really. It's like the sheep, you know, and the artists, not the fans. Fans have like a rational and individualistic, you know, reaction to things that you do. That's the problem. but the artists are just like, you know, he's not doing it, therefore I better not do it either. Yeah. Somebody's come out against it, and they're really scared of bad PR.
And have you got feelings about whether, I mean, without necessarily saying you were pro or anti-Israel, in any regime that people might have uncomfortable feelings about how it's run, what do you think the role of artists is in that? I mean,
you need to know what you're talking about first and foremost. If it's got references in your own culture, that's great, because you can just take your own culture there and say, and that's what I try and do with gigs anyway. So I go and play in like a concert hall in Beijing University. And what I'm trying to do, the whole thing I'm trying to do from the beginning till the end, is make it feel like I'm playing at the Cricketers' Arms in Keighley for me and for them. Because that experience of an English pub gig is a really amazing thing, where you really intimately connect with the musician, and people shout stuff out at you, and you know, and it's fine. And it's just communication is, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. So trying to take your own culture there. So for example, I've been asked to go to Russia to do some gigs this year. I know there's certain things about the attitudes of mainstream Russian politics. I don't know if they're attitudes of mainstream Russian society. People will lead you to believe either way. But they're things that I fundamentally disagree with, but that I fundamentally also know about because it's part of, you know, my life experience. So I always wear black on stage. When I go to Russia and play, it's going to be rainbow T-shirt. It's coming out. I'm going to have to borrow one off Kate Wellen or something. Yeah. I don't know, but you know, it's going to be like I'll make some kind of statement, and people can react to that and say, you know, Russians can react to that and say, who do you think you are coming over here telling us how to live our lives? It's like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm coming over here telling you how I think you should allow other people to live their lives, and I stand by this, and I know I'm right. Like a really good friend of mine, was offered gigs in Israel, went and did them because he's not. No, he didn't actually go and do them. He accepted it because he just doesn't really engage and stuff in that way all the time, in the same way that I do. So he agreed to do it, and then he pulled out of the gigs because they'd just been on the news, some missiles being fired into Israel from Palestine, from the West Bank, and he just had a son, his first child, and he just got scared basically, and he put on Facebook, I wish he'd told me first, he put on Facebook that he was cancelling the gigs and truthfully why, and he wasn't even aware of a boycott situation happening, but people thought not only was he getting on board with the boycott, he was basically saying you live in a war zone, which Israel is a country at war on basically all of its borders, and that is true, and it's a fact of life there, but the backlash that he got meant that he basically had to leave Facebook for about 2 months. Yeah. And he's just the sweetest, nicest guy. He would never incur that kind of thing. So I think, and his attitude to music is, you know, people have shit to put up with in their lives, people have stress to put up with in their lives, and when I make music, I want that to help people to forget about that and just be, you know, well, if somebody says, oh, I find your music really relaxing, I just really love relaxing and listening to your music, he takes that as a huge, great compliment, whereas I'd be thinking, you know, why? He shouldn't be relaxing. the stuff that's happening that you should be taking notice of. But so it's a completely different artistic approach. I think the artistic approach and the kind of, I don't know, and your approach to doing stuff, you know, like your ethos as an artist, go hand in hand. And some people try and borrow, like you get Coldplay, who make pretty bland music, have a very corporate ethos in the way that they release music, but he's constantly going on about issues, and it's almost like, you know, when Radiohead released an album where the whole artwork is based on the destruction of the on Arctic ice melting and stuff, you can kind of buy into that because this is a band with an underground kind of vibe, even though they're huge. They've got on an independent label, you know, Tom York's this kind of slightly insane, militant vegan guy, and you can really buy into it. And when Chris Martin says it, it's like, I don't see how this connects with you and your lifestyle.
Have there ever been any points where you've maybe had offers to do things that would look less DIY, and then it feels a burden that people see how you've done things as so DIY that now, especially as we all get older, you might be kind of like offered to do something and you think, oh, this would look particularly difficult.
No, it really doesn't matter that much about that stuff, because most people don't care. The vast majority of people who listen to my music do not care that it's released on my own record label, and why should they? There's no reason why they should. And so it's not really that it look bad, it's more really how I would feel about it. That's I mean, the ethos that I have is to not do anything which feels icky to me, and Tash as well. She is, you know, sometimes I'll say, oh, we should just do that, and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. But it's we never think about how it would look ever, you know. And also sometimes you want to just kind of, I don't know, like I'm doing Download Festival this weekend, which is a really awesome festival, but it totally feels like I shouldn't be there. Not only to me, but probably to most people who are like into my music. Not like I shouldn't be there musically, even though I shouldn't, but like I shouldn't be there in all kinds of different ways. Like, how have you got on there? And I don't really know how that happened. Just occasionally you ask for something and they go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. It's probably because my agent contacted a particular person, and that particular person happened to actually be aware of me and be into my stuff. Yeah. I would imagine that's the only way that it could have happened. So yeah, stuff like that that feels really fun. It's like a little guerrilla, like, insurgency.
I think there are still, you know, definitely people that aim to get signed or do things in a more mainstream fashion than you've done it.
I don't know, because there's so much more options now than there were when I was doing it. Like indie record labels, when I started, there was so few indie record labels. Now there's loads, and they're really, you know, really, really successful.
Yeah.
Really little labels. It's funny, some of the older and more established ones are still the most successful ones, but you know, you get these new labels popping up all the time, and people set up labels for the same reasons that people used to join bands. And still do, you know. It's like this is a fun thing that's going to be really like exciting, artistically rewarding. I can be creative, you know. It can be sociable. All the same reasons that people used to still do join bands. People are just starting little indie labels, and it's amazing that it's really brilliant.
It still feels like there's kind of like I think I remember you saying once that you didn't really understand. That you understood local press.
Remember everything.
Yeah,
That's
you
really bad.
you understood local press. So I think it might have been when you were on the BBC TV or something like that.
Right.
But you were saying, look, I understand local press and I understand how people go and get in that. It's more the kind of buzz, kind of like music press that just seems a bit kind of like it just seems And like growing up in Leeds, the Evening Post building was like a real kind of like.
When I was a kid. Both my parents were working at a Blackpool Evening Gazette, and that's one of the few strong local newspapers left, because in Blackpool the whole town revolves around this one industry, so everybody actually does give a shit about what's going on locally. So but it was this amazing old building, and the newsroom was just this massive open space full of noise, people shouting at each other, arguing, swearing, just unbelievable amount of swearing in newspaper offices, like you would never, and just fag smoke. It's just like a haze, and then, you know, get towards the end of the day, and the whole building starts vibrating, because in the basement is where they've got the fucking press, the actual printing press in the newspaper building. You know, it doesn't exist even on Fleet Street and Nationals anymore. And it actually happened once when I was there that my dad, stop the presses, something's coming, stop the presses. You know, the football manager's getting fired or something. Got to get this in, So, actually the presses come grinding to a halt and they chuck them all out and start again.